One in five suffer.
Erase the stigma.
Brain difference is not a crime.
Mental health isn't just your problem.
It's our problem.
And now, Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
Welcome to Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave. I'm Dave, by the way.
I'm Marla. I'm a little bit shell-shocked at your hard S. What was that? Like, Jesus!
Because it's Mental Health Mondays, and I'm excited.
It is always good for it to be Monday, and more importantly, we are always really proud and glad to bring you this show because this is an important topic. No matter, we try to, make it as light as we can, but we're always happy to have the guest here, and it's just an amazing platform. So we're glad you're here as well.
At the beginning of every show, I like to remind you that today's show is brought to you by NAMI San Fernando Valley and Loving Beyond Reason. We have a great guest in studio with us today. His name is Jim Randall.
Yay! Wait, we get...
There you go. Jim is on the California State Board. He is the NAMI Training Coordinator for the LAPD, and he's also responsible for the great e-blast we who are members of NAMI receive in our emails. He keeps us informed with everything going on with NAMI San Fernando Valley. I want to always remind you as well that one of the main reasons we love to talk to the leaders at NAMI San Fernando Valley is the fact that these conversations with the experts help to show the unity in the mental health community and helps to ease the anxiety of those who visit the NAMI San Fernando Valley website maybe for the first time, and I'm not quite sure what to expect when they see that our leaders are members of their community as well and very approachable and with the heart for anyone who suffers. Man.
With that, I can't wait to get started. I have a lot of questions and comments as well for you, Jim. So welcome to Mental Health Monday.
We'll be right back.
Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
All right, Jim, like Marla said, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you as well.
I have to just make a comment. Along with bringing information, I'm always glad, and we have not had a chance to meet personally, but let's not ever mistake the fact that mental health is a tough situation. It's a tough conversation, and it's a tough reality that in a lot of cases can make someone feel absolutely, as we were in that boat at one point dealing with children who have brain differences, hopeless. And so every time I meet someone who's working with NAMI and you come in and you not only have a wealth of information, but you have a smile on your face, I think it's just encouraging in itself that we're still here and able to smile and able to disseminate this information so people can really be able to apply it and use it, and that's what I have always loved about my experience with NAMI and their leaders. So let me just put that on the table. Go ahead.
Well, before we get into your membership of the California State Board or you training the Los Angeles Police Department from a NAMI perspective, take us all the way back, and how did you first find out about NAMI?
It was many years ago. Let me just tell you briefly my story. My brother is 12 years older than me. My sister is 10 years older than me. Mm-hmm. And like many people with schizophrenia, they got it around the age of 20 when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And so my family dealt with that like all through my teenage years.
Is that your brother and your sister?
Right, both of them.
Wow.
And they were very ill. I think unusually ill because I've read that like psychosis usually is very episodic. A person might have it like once a day or once a week. Sometimes even once a year. With my brother and sister, they seemed like psychotic almost all the time. And growing up, it was just brutal. My sister would, threaten to kill me, to cut my throat, and I would have to barricade my door at night.
Wow.
And it was...
How old were you?
Like maybe from 10 to 18.
Got it.
And so it was, for me growing up, it was very difficult. The police were at our house constantly.
Right.
And back then, the laws were a little bit more stringently interpreted. Like they had to see the threats like themselves right then. So they couldn't hear what the family said. Oh, wait, like an hour ago they did this.
Right.
No,
Testimony meant nothing.
Testimony didn't mean anything. Now it's changed, thank God. But back then, nothing would happen. So I was very, very frustrated with what was going on. I was as a kid, I was just very wound up.
Wow.
So
you can only imagine, and we've parented.
Yeah.
We've been the parents in that situation, but the anxiety of that we relate to very, very, very well.
And so, did you deal with any other long-lasting effects of trauma?
I did. I mean, in my 20s and 30s, I would tell people that I was an only child because the shame, the stigma was so tremendous for me that I would just tell people no. It was easier for me to do that. And then just having relationships with other people, I could always joke and have a great time at parties and all that. But just having relationships with friends or girlfriends was always a struggle because I didn't really want people
bringing
to know
anybody
me.
home. Yeah.
Yeah, I was afraid of them knowing about my history, and that stigma was just so much.
Well, that was really, and I appreciate the weightiness of the feeling that you're describing growing up. From your perspective, give us a window into what your parents were probably feeling and thinking about, because it seemed like what you were saying is that your sister was directly threatening you. Well, what about your brother as well? Did he?
He was more disruptive than threatening. So my parents eventually had to lock him out of the house, and he would throw a brick through the window because that was his house. He couldn't understand his family would let him not come in, even though he was living in a board and care.
Right.
He felt that, no, that's my house. I can come in anytime I want. So for him, he couldn't quite understand that.
Yeah.
And, for my father through the years, as I got older, he would just ask, anyone, like, how could this have happened? And I would hear him make that statement maybe 5-10 times a day when I would visit. Because for him, it was just something that he could not process in his head. Like, how could something so enormous happen? Because they ended up on the street.
Wow.
So they were on the street for decades.
And was that, so did your parents ever, was it a genetic issue with them? Did they, it was an indictment? Did they feel like, oh, I did this, or is something I failed at?
They felt they were failures as parents. With my father, like he would verbally talk out loud, okay, well, my brother, like, oh, that was drugs. But no, maybe my sister, like, okay, I had a hand in that. That's what he would say. And I think parents always feel guilt. So,
Right.
But their illness was so flagrant and extreme that it was something that was clearly biological.
So then how did you find NAMI in that situation? When was the first experience that you had with NAMI?
Well, I went to a meeting back when they had the meetings up on Kester Avenue, and I went there and we heard it. And like, gosh, this is so depressing. I never want to go back. So both me and my mother said, okay, we're not coming back. And then
was that a family-to-family class, or
no, it was a support group.
Yeah,
meeting.
but that was probably before those programs.
Yeah, it was before that. And then I was living in New Mexico, and I started to volunteer for the Albuquerque affiliate, and I found taking home material just to stamp the envelopes was so freeing. I can remember just like breaking down in tears as I'm stamping envelopes. I'm thinking, my God, I'm finally doing something. As I'm sure you know, like that sense of helplessness is so overwhelming and overpowering that when you have a chance to do something, it's like a godsend. So I realized, okay, something's up. I need to pursue this organization more. So
that's
so that
amazing.
was a way
that speaks to your heart as well. Yeah,
that was a way that you were able to actually contribute toward a helping. You found yourself dealing with NAMI even as simple as the envelopes.
Oh yeah, it was tremendous.
Just volunteering any way you could.
Right, and I came to the NAMI San Fernando Valley affiliate. I came here and I said, hey, I'll be happy to volunteer for the library. And at first, the person who was the president said he didn't trust me because he didn't know me.
Right.
And I was working a technology corporate job. I got a suit and tie. Like,
Fear being that you would steal their books, like I think the library.
I think there's kind of a problem with any nonprofit volunteers. Some people say they want to do work, and then some people say they'll do work, and then they never see them again.
Right.
So I think for veterans, they get a little bit frustrated, and they're suspicious of new people. Like, oh, this person says they want to do it, but are they going to pan out?
Right.
And so it was more like, okay, let's see some proof.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, man, that's
well, the thing
great
about
opening
it is
segment.
Everybody has a story, and we're just starting to break into Jim's story and his role at NAMI. So don't move. We'll be right back right after this break.
When Dave and Marla get together, it's hot.
okay to think you're in a toxic relationship with the world right now.
It's okay to feel like your world is changing.
It's okay if it's hard to find the words to express how you feel.
It's okay to feel like you just want to become someone else.
It's okay if you're panicking over an inability to control your life right now.
It's okay to have trouble maintaining your normal routine while staying home.
It's okay if you're feeling more cynical than usual.
It's okay if you want to curse more than you usually do.
It's okay to wear your favorite tank top several days in a row.
It's okay to miss your job.
It's okay to just stay quiet.
It's okay to be depressed.
It's okay to talk to your cats like they understand what you're saying.
It's okay not to feel the most fabulous right now.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's time for the Mental Health Minute with Marla and Dave.
What is an anxiety disorder? Well, it's a chronic condition characterized by an excessive and persistent sense of apprehension, with physical symptoms such as sweating, palpitations, and feelings of stress.
People with anxiety disorders respond to certain objects or situations with fear and dread. According to the mentalhealth.gov, an anxiety disorder is diagnosed if a person, A, has an inappropriate response to a situation, B, cannot control the response, or C, has an altered way of life due to the anxiety.
The 5 major types of anxiety disorders are generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD, panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, social phobia or social anxiety disorder.
If you or anyone that you know shows serious signs of anxiety, please, I ask again, please, contact a mental health professional to get much needed help. This is a message that's brought to you by NAMI San Fernando Valley and Loving Beyond Reason.
David is a thinker.
I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically wear my personality on my sleeve.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker.
All right, well, there you have it, Marla. You're still the firecracker.
Thank you, Dave. I thought you had extinguished me for a minute. But
and I'm still your match.
I'm back.
All right, Jim. Sorry about that. We had to take care of some housekeeping. So now we're going to get back to, tell us how you got onto the California State Board. How you can be affiliated with that board.
Before you even say that, what is your actual official role? What is it that you do with NAMI?
Well, I think you kind of cover it because to me, it's not roles we have; it's more like tasks we take on.
What's your task? What's your main task?
I have several different ones. Again, I organize the LAPD trainings. I do the newsletter. I organize the speaker meeting, and then I'm on the NAMI California board.
Okay. All right.
Well, speak to us about the board and what do you do there and what are the types of things that you guys take care of for us on behalf of NAMI?
Well, I think the state board covers essentially state issues. So you have some policy issues that come up within the state, and then we kind of try to give guidance on how to set the priorities for the actions of NAMI California, the full-time employees, and the professional advocates they have. So we're more for guidance. So for me, I really don't do that much because it's kind of a ship that goes on its own, and we're just there to say, hey, you might want to just turn a little bit to the left, turn a little bit to the right.
Just make sure it doesn't go off track.
Yes. So.
Okay.
Like a navigator.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, so now with all of the issues that I guess we've been having with police officers around the country and our relationship to police officers, approach do you take when you're training police officers, especially when they're not really, in my opinion, I don't think they should be called for mental health issues anyway. But so what approach do you take to make sure that when they are called, we can stay safe?
Well, the goal for me and I think for our presenters is try to humanize the issue as much as possible, because for them, they see people almost like an assembly line, because any job becomes routine.
Right.
So they see the same kind of issue over and over again, and maybe they might do a 5150. They're released. They're back out in the street. They're doing the same thing the week later, and they're frustrated. So we try to make sure they understand there's a whole world behind that individual, where we really want them to get help and try to understand the person with mental illness is human too. So essentially that's it. Really try to just make sure they understand there's a whole context of families and suffering that's beyond that one moment, that crisis moment they see.
Right. So, well, for me, I wanted to ask you to piggyback on what David is saying, with what's going on right now with mental health as a focus, what change would you like to add or to bring to the police to further aid and assist those who have mental health? If you could toss something else in based on your experience and what you've seen and where the holes may be, have you ever?
Well, for me, more training is crucial. And I think the LAPD had a consent decree about 15 years ago where they had training really forced down their throats, and the culture has radically changed because of that. So it used to be you'd be terrified when the LAPD came to your house when you had mental illness. And now they're better trained. So when I hear bad stories, it's usually, sometimes it's the LAPD, but usually it's the local police departments, the sheriffs, the Glendale PD or whoever that doesn't have the same level of training. And I think that's really important. But I also work now for the Department of Mental Health, and I go on crisis calls. And sometimes the police are necessary, and that's something that we sometimes forget. And I think this push to say, okay, no, they shouldn't be there for mental illness calls. Sometimes a client will hear a police officer where they won't hear someone else.
And to be honest, that's our personal story. Yeah. Our son, at the time of his episode, when he was episodic, he literally was saying he owned the police but when they showed up, then it's a different story. In other words, his delusions and the way he was acting out with us. But like you said, because I do have a background for myself in just managing him and being in mental health, it was also training on our part as well as parents to inform them. We needed the police, but to let the police know you are coming to deal with a mental health issue. Our son has an actual diagnosis, but at this point, it was a violent show that was going to be beyond what David and I could manage with de-escalation tactics. They weren't working.
Yeah, so it's crucial.
So they do go hand in hand.
It's crucial what you said, too, is families need to know or need to give as much information to the police department so the police officers know what's happening when they go in. So they can prepare and they can get their own mindset ready. Because for them, a mental health call is scary, because they know that's very often when police officers die. So they want to be ready and aware for whatever might happen.
Is that true?
Now talk to us about that. So when you say that's a situation when police officers might die in a situation when they're called up for mental health, and we're going to have to. I want you to hold that thought, but I want you to tell us
when we come back.
Describe that type of situation and the reasoning behind that, if you would.
I will.
We'll be right back.
Known and respected throughout the world.
This radio show is crazy. Hi-fi sound. This is real.
All right, it's time for the poll question break. The poll question last week, we asked, what percentage of mental health disorders show first signs before a young person turns 14 years old? The options were 25%, 50%, or 75%. And the answer was, Marla?
50%. 30%.
No, it's 50%. You're correct.
Dave, I don't have my glasses on. This whole thing is pink. I don't know.
Can't believe your eyes. Well, the answer is 50%. The poll question this week is?
According to the American Psychiatric Association, what percentage of Americans feel that the coronavirus pandemic is having a serious impact on their mental health? 19%, 36%, or 47%.
And you can get to the poll questions. Take the poll question because you can learn something. It's fun. It's a way for you to interact with us on our social media. And anywhere our social media is found, you'll find the poll question.
And like I tell you every week, vote.
We'll be right back. All right, so now we really want to hear about that situation that the police feel that when they're called on a mental health call, that's a situation where they might die.
Not just a feeling. And let me juxtapose that with, we just covered last week that, to be honest, mental health, people who are affected with mental health challenges generally are usually harmed more. People are afraid, but
they're usually victims of violence.
They're usually victims of violence versus the other. So tell me why
that
flips around in a situation of police.
Well, I think what happens is you have two different things going on. One factor is like some individuals are calmer when the police are there. Maybe they're a little bit intimidated, or maybe they feel safe. But others feel threatened. Mm-hmm. And when you have a mental illness, when you feel threatened, you might act out. And that's happened. I can think of several instances where police officers died at the hands of a person with mental illness. And the other issue, too, is sometimes you have individuals who decide to do suicide by cop. And so to initiate their death, they might fire on the police officers.
Right.
So you have a couple of different things happening that makes it dangerous for police.
So then in your education classes, when you're dealing with the Los Angeles Police Department, how do you approach their mindset when they go into situations like that?
Well, again, I mean, like I'm not a police officer, so I don't try to tell them how to be
do their job, right?
But I try to make sure that they understand, like, okay, these are human beings, they're individuals, and every situation is a little bit different, and every family is different, and then just be open to that, and then try to respect them as people. So rather than like, that crazy person, that's somebody's son or daughter or brother or sister. So
wow,
you
man,
make a connection, which by the way, I'm going to again use that because that's really what I'm passionate about is explaining to people that I understand without the education, you cannot erase the fear because you can't understand it. So you grew up, with your brother and sister. And so even though it's still heartbreaking and it feels, scary, you have a different level of understanding of what mental illness at its worst.
Oh, yeah.
And so, right.
So, and I think for siblings it's different. I think for you as parents and other parents I've met, and you'll lie in bed at night worried about your kids. Mm-hmm. But like for siblings, we don't do that, but we're affected by the whole family dynamic.
Sure.
Right.
So, yeah, like I was scared and ashamed of my brother and sister. And that's how I grew up. So.
Right. And that is what I'm hoping to be able to impart on this earth more than anything else. I think that in this unfortunate situation that I'm really big on trying to get people to understand, at least in the way of schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder, the more education, the easier it's becoming to not be so afraid and to be able to engage safely to some degree, because there's a lot of de-escalating things we can do even in conversation. And yet and still, what seems to be the norm now is to dismiss and to discard and to push them back here, and which is why we have so many, I believe, even on the street. And I get it, because it's hard to do. It's hard to deal with, but you can't do it at all unless you're willing to get the education. And that, again, is where I am forever indebted to and in constant bow mode to NAMI, because it gave me a perspective of understanding and education that allowed me the ability to cope, and that cope gave me hope.
Right, and I say this over and over again. There's research out there that when you take a psychoeducation course like Family to Family, the outcomes improve for yourself as a family member. Your stress level goes down. But the outcomes also improve for the individual, the family member, because we're the emotional environment that person's in.
Right.
So the more we know, the better off that individual is. So the outcomes are better.
So it's like educating the support group that's around the affected individual. So you mentioned earlier on that stuffing the envelopes gave you a sense of purpose with the problem that you were dealing with. How do you keep that motivation going? Because you're so far past stuffing the envelopes and you're doing so much on behalf of NAMI San Fernando Valley. What is it, the same essential driving motivating factor, or is there something new now that keeps you going?
Well, it's different as I've gotten older now. Like that same intense passion where I could just bash down the doors with my passion. Now it's like I'm still working, but I'm not quite as into it. But it's nice because I've learned so much about the system that I feel like I can really help people because I know the system so well.
Right.
So, I mean, just telling people what they can and can't do, what actually works, and try to let them get reasonable expectations for working with the system. Because sometimes people come in, they think, oh, no, they need to be put in a hospital for months. And then, okay, let's do it. Well, no, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
There's a whole very, very difficult process to go through.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of roadblocks that we simply can't get past, but sometimes we can go around. So.
Well, yeah, that's funny. I chuckled because
I can tell.
I laughed only because I mentioned to Jim earlier that we've been married 32 years, and he literally just snatched a thought out of my head. And this is why you don't meet anybody in second grade, because you don't ever have your own real life. It's not right.
Sorry about that, honey.
Anyway, but because what I was going to ask you is, I would love to know because NAMI is a volunteer organization, and you have been plugged in and dedicated for so long, what do you think is the key to longevity with keeping volunteers? What keeps you engaged?
Well, I think that's a very tough question. That's a question that we ask ourselves over and over again. How to keep
kept
people
you engaged?
Well, I think one thing, I went back to graduate school and I pulled out of NAMI, not completely, but like maybe 90%. And I found just taking that break was just like, okay, great. I'm not doing that much. And coming back was a lot easier. I didn't get burnout. And you see this with a lot of the older volunteers. Like they work so hard and then they're stuck and no one else is doing the work. And they feel like they can't get out and they want to get out really bad and then they burn out. So I had to get out, and then I came back at a level like a little bit more controlled. So
there was a break. You took a break, and then you came back.
And I came back. But I was able to just not kind of come back in a level that I felt comfortable with.
Right.
And not burn out completely. So.
Right. And go ahead.
No, I was only going to ask that since you've been dealing with the system, so to speak, for so long, what are some of and we'll have to probably get this when we come back.
That's going to be our end. And you're going to do it again. Go ahead. Take my thought.
I want you to give us some of probably the most positive changes that you can tell that have happened, that you've seen happen from back in the day, so to speak, to where we are now. And especially with the help that you can help people navigate the so-called system when you're dealing with mental health issues. And we'll hold that thought and we'll be right back.
Bad.
What are you doing? Worthless.
Don't trust them. They'll hurt you. You're worthless.
It's pointless.
When the pain of schizophrenia meets hope, everything can change. Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
It's raw, real, and unfiltered.
All right, Jim, so now you get a chance to answer that question. What are the positive changes that you've seen with the mental health system with the years that you've been dealing with it?
Well, it's some things move forward, some things move back. I mean, I think, for example, the police are much better educated. I think there is a little bit less stigma. At the same token, there's not as much services as I think we should have. I mean, I talk to social workers, and they say their caseloads are 300, 250 to 1. They'll say, like, I used to know, like, the name of my client's dog, and now, like, they barely know them because they really don't know them. That they never had a chance to get to know them.
Right.
So it's some things have improved and some things haven't.
So we're still working, and we're still fighting. We're still educating, and more importantly, I have to always remind everybody that we have to continue to still love, because, but by the grace of God, there go I.
And we want to thank our guest, Mr. Jim Randall, for coming in studio, spending some time with us, educating us, and giving us something to hope for. We still need you guys out there to donate.
Yes.
Log on to either NAMI San Fernando Valley or Love and Beyond Reason. Please donate not only your money, but we
your
need
time.
your time.
Absolutely.
And so we'll be taking a break next week. We'll be back on September the 14th.
We have the Leah will be playing on Monday, correct? No?
Well, it's already on the website now, so you can look at that now. But in studio, we'll be gone next
Catch up.
week. We'll be back September 14. And until then, I'm Dave.
And I'm Marla. And this is our guest, Jim Randall.
And remember,
go ahead.
Your overall health includes your mental health. This has been Mental Health Mondays. We'll see you guys
Marla
next
and
time.
Dave, we'll see you guys next time. Have a safe holiday.